Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Friday, 4th of August, 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the island and background to that news, plus sport and business and Sea-Watch and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening. Manx Care cancels the Cummal Mooar meeting custodial sentence for domestic abuse. Having a private medical procedure abroad, then do your research. The latest on large vehicle parking and on the Manxman. And the Ravens hope to return to winning ways this weekend.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster Mai, William King.
Faster Mai, the steam packet company's managing director, says the first passenger sailing of Manxman is now weeks rather than months away. Brian Thompson says the company won't rush things to have Manxman in service before it is ready. The first person to be prosecuted on the Isle of Man under new domestic abuse legislation has received a custodial sentence. Charlotte Rebecca Doherty, formerly of Ballacrint Drive in Onken, was handed a 20-week prison sentence at Douglas Courthouse this week. She's now been released from the Isle of Man prison as she's already served her time whilst on remand. People considering travelling abroad for private medical procedures are being urged to thoroughly research the facilities they're planning to use. The UK NHS has seen growing numbers of people returning to Britain after botched procedures further afield. In international news, a critic of Vladimir Putin has been sentenced to an additional 19 years in jail. Already imprisoned opposition leader Alexei Navalny was convicted of extremism charges. A judge has told a man that he's not shown any remorse for murdering his 10-month-old stepson as he was sentenced to 28 years in jail. Craig Crouch caused Jacob months of suffering before his death in Derbyshire in 2020. And a TikTok influencer has been found guilty of murdering her mother's young lover and his friend in a high-speed car chase. Mahek Bukhari's mum, Ansreen Bukhari, has also been convicted of the same offence. Those are the Update News headlines.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, William, from the Ronaldsway Met Office. State of the moment is slight out in the North Irish Sea. We're dry with bright spells, a moderate wind coming in from the northwest. It's going to be wet after dark with some heavy rain. Overnight minimum 12 and 4 tomorrow. Jasan, light rain at first on a strong easterly backing north or northwesterly. We've got isolated showers through the afternoon. Top temperature is 16 Celsius down to 12 through the night. Into Jadooni, dry with sunny spells on Sunday, a light to moderate westerly, highest temperature 18 degrees. Low water this evening, 29 minutes before 9. The sun sets at 12 minutes past 9. High tide, 27 minutes before 3 a.m. Sunrise, 23 minutes before 6. And the morning low tide at 2 minutes past 9.
Manx Glass and Glazing can produce bespoke splashbacks for your kitchen in any colours. Speak to the team on 674 573.
Manx Care has cancelled a meeting for residents of a residential home in Ramsey, which it's earmarked for closure. Manx Radio has invited Manx Care for a response, but as yet we've received nothing. A Cummal Mooar campaigner is Vicky Hewitson.
We were already upset because the first meeting was going to be almost a month after the bombshell was dropped on us. And now we're not given any dates whatsoever. It's totally unacceptable. These are people's lives that you're dealing with, and it's affecting them, both the residents, the staff, the relatives. You cannot treat people like this. You can't leave them hanging. And we understand it's because civil servants are on holiday. So the people who need to be spoken just aren't available. Not good enough, I'm afraid. For us, obviously, we're gathering a lot of information, and the powers that be really should be aware that we're not just sitting down. The longer they give us, the more information we gather and the more support we're getting. I mean, what we have in Ramsey at the moment, I think there is almost every shop in Ramsey has a petition in. The feeling is that strong. It's going out to Andreas and Sulby and Balaf and Jerby because people feel so strongly about it. If it doesn't affect them personally, they will know people who either work there or have had relatives in there. We all know how vital this facility is, and it seems to be that Cummal Mooar is caught with a battle between DHSC and Manx Care, and left hand doesn't seem to know what the right hand is doing. But in the meantime, us as relatives, we don't know. How can we reassure our loved ones that they're going to have a roof over their heads? I've had this exact conversation with my mother because she's just moved there. She thinks she's going to be out on the street.
After defeat in midweek, FC Isle of Man's hoping to return to winning ways when they host Litherland in the NWCFL Premier Division at the Bowl tomorrow night. The Ravens boss is Paul Jones. He says the team's coming up against a good quality side who beat them on home turf 3-2 last season.
They've largely got a similar group to what they had last year with a few additions, so we would expect them to be to that sort of level. They went on a flying run of form from beating us all the way through to the end of the season, and I'm sure, like the way we finished the season, they were looking at starting this season absolutely flying as well, and it's not quite happened yet for them for whatever reason, like it hasn't quite happened for us, although we've got a victory. We feel our performances aren't quite where we know we're capable of, so it'll be really interesting. There'll be a very difficult test. They have a player suspended in the same way that we have after we having a player sent off on Saturday in the first league game. So yeah, there'll be a few changes for both teams, and we believe we're more than a match for anybody in this division. The challenge is performing at a level that does put us in that sort of place on a regular basis, and we'll be doing our very best to get to that level on Saturday. And if we do, then Litherland are in for a very difficult game. But if we play like we did in a couple of 5-minute spells like we did on Wednesday for longer periods, then we could be in for a very difficult game. So hopefully we don't need to wait 5 or 6 or 7 fixtures to learn our lessons like we did last year. We're not a finished product. I think I said before, we're not going to win the league the first game of the season, and we're not going to lose the league in the second game of the season or get relegated in the second game of the season. It's about developing, it's about improving and understanding where we can keep doing that week to week, game to game. And if we can do that like we did in the second half of last season, then I think we'll be in a good place.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
Still no word as to when the steam packet's flagship Manxman will enter service, but company managing director Brian Thompson says he can confirm it's weeks, not months. The company has already responded to queries about whether the vessel's been issued with a seaworthiness certificate. In a statement, Steam Packet says Manxman wouldn't have been accepted by the company or wouldn't have been able to leave the port in Ulsan, South Korea, if it didn't have a seaworthiness certificate. Here's Simon Richardson.
When Manxman does enter service, she'll initially be running the daytime sailings between Douglas and Heysham for 4 weeks. At the end of the period, the vessel will undertake the previously announced cruise before commencing 4 weeks of nighttime sailings, during which Ben McCree will switch to the daytime. Manxman has now completed berthing trials at Douglas and Heysham and paid an initial visit to Belfast. The port visits have also allowed 2 of the masters to achieve their pilot exemption certificates, with a third expecting to be signed off in the next week. A parallel stream of work has been dealing with the snagging list established since before the vessel left the yard in South Korea and added to on the return voyage. As a bespoke one-off vessel, this is a perfectly normal part of the project, and the company's working with the builders to resolve the outstanding items with contractors on board the vessel most days. An important piece of work that's gone out of sight but that will be visible to users when passengers are aboard is the improved coating applied to both car decks. The work has been carried out by specialist contractors to meet the high standards of the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company. Also outside the public's gaze, but of vital importance to the safe operation of the ship and ongoing all the time, is crew training, familiarisation and the development and implementation of safety procedures and drills. Manxman, the company says, is a huge step forward from both Ben McCree and Manannan in terms of technology and requires entirely new ways of working. The crew of Manxman and shoreside staff have been working tirelessly to develop and implement operating procedures as real-life knowledge of the vessel grows.
The first person to be prosecuted on the Isle of Man under new domestic abuse legislation has received a custodial sentence. Here's Tessa Hawley.
Charlotte Rebecca Doherty, formerly of Ballacrint Drive in Onken, was handed a 20-week prison sentence at Douglas Courthouse this week. However, she's now been released from the Isle of Man prison as she's already served the time whilst on remand. The 41-year-old had previously admitted causing physical or psychological harm to her husband, who was also her carer, between the 4th and the 31st of January. The court was told he'd been left in fear of his life after she attacked him by pinning him down, biting him, spitting at him and hitting him over the head with an iPad. Doherty, he said, had become a religious fanatic who demanded he study the Bible, stopped him drinking, eating bacon and listening to his music. During sentencing, Doherty's advocate told the court his client had been suffering from not insignificant mental and physical health problems at the time, adding it appears things have spiralled from there. She wishes more than anything to say sorry for what she's done, he added. This is, I submit, a very sad case for all involved. Sentencing Doherty to 20 weeks in custody, the maximum the summary court can impose, High Bailiff Jane Hughes said she could now be released from prison. I do consider the offence to be a serious one, she told her. I hope you receive the support you need moving forward. An order under the Domestic Abuse Act was also made.
Sea-Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Battleship Ben McCree departed Heysham at 8 minutes past 2. She's safely into the harbour at the moment, just going on to the link span. We'll be leaving this evening at 7:45 to Heysham at 11:30. Overnight departure from Lancashire 2:15 and back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. The fastcraft Manannan departed Douglas at 29 minutes to 4. She'll be into the Mersey about now, onto the link span around 6. Departing at 7:15, back to Douglas at 10 tonight. Tomorrow morning's departures: Manannan departs 7:15 for Liverpool, Ben McCree at 8:45 for Heysham.
Like the Steam Packet on Facebook for the latest sailing information.
Anybody considering travelling abroad for a private medical procedure is being urged to thoroughly research the country, the medical staff and the facilities they're planning to use. The warning from the Isle of Man's Interim Director of Public Health, Professor Hugo van Woerden, is in response to the growing number of people turning to the National Health Service in Britain after botched procedures abroad. Here's Simon again.
A growing number of people are ending up in hospital wards with horrific complications after procedures carried out abroad, the majority in Turkey. A recent survey from the British Association of Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons showed 75% of the cases related to abdominoplasty and 25% to breast surgery procedures. In the most extreme cases, a number of women who've been treated in the UK after procedures in Turkey have had kidneys removed without their knowledge or consent. Figures issued in 2022 demonstrated the burden on the NHS as complications from cosmetic surgery abroad rose by 44%. It's estimated that the average cost to the NHS per patient for correctional surgery is £15,000. Many also need private treatment, wiping out any saving they may have made by going abroad in the first place. The BAAPS is calling for cosmetic surgery travel insurance to be made compulsory to help tackle the problem. Any Isle of Man residents considering travelling abroad for treatments are advised to check the UK government travel advice.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
It's 16 minutes before 6. Shares in the UK government contractor Capita plunged today after it posted a loss for the first half year, including taking a hit of up to 25 million from a cyber attack on its computer systems. The cyber attack was carried out by Russian hacking group Black Basta, which managed to steal from less than 0.1% 50% of Capita's servers. The company said today that the impact on its future growth outlook from the incident was minimal and that it had signed government contracts worth more than £1 billion since March. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Will drones ever take over rural deliveries? UK Royal Mail thinks so. It's trialling unpiloted aerial vehicles with the drone firm Skyports on Scotland's remote Orkney Islands. Drones will carry letters and parcels from Stromness, the relatively populous town and part of mainland Orkney. It'll go to the islands of Grimsby and Hoy, where postal staff will finish the final leg. The Speedbird Aero DLV-2 model drones carry up to 6 kilograms in payloads. The inter-island project's only for 3 months, but could be continued on a permanent basis if it works. Elsewhere around the world, the drones have been used to transport blood in Rwanda and Domino's Pizza in New Zealand.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European markets were higher to close off a downbeat week. The dollar fell after slowing US jobs growth. Oil was on a track for a 6th week of gains, and gold rose after a slightly weaker than expected US jobs report. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall. At the close in London, the FTSE 100 up 0.5% at 7,564. In Frankfurt, the DAX closed up 0.4% at 15,955. And a short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial up 0.5%, 35,406. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index up 0.75% at 14,063. And in Chicago, the S&P 500 up just over 0.5% at 4,527. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 27.8 cents, €1 15.7 cents, and 23 South African rand 50.6 cents. In commodities, gold's up 0.5% at $1,943 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude oil up 1.1% at $86.10.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future. For a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Here's the relevant information. If you're sailing, kayaking, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sea swimming, diving or surfing this weekend, sea temperature is 15 Celsius and the wind for tomorrow, east or southeast, force 4 or 5, increasing 5 to 7 through the morning, force 7, backing north or northwesterly, force 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Wave height 0.8 to 1.5 metres, becoming 0.4 to 1 metre. Wave period 4 to 5 seconds. High tides is around 3 o'clock. And for Sunday, the wind is northwesterly, backing westerly or northwesterly through the morning, force 3 or 4. Wave height 0.2 to 0.6 metres. Wave period 3 to 4 seconds. High tide at 3:30 p.m.
Visit the Manx Glass and Glazing website and see a range of products from windows to doors, mirrors to splashbacks. manxglass.com. Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690-300.
And MHK is calling for a rethink of proposals which could make it illegal to park large vehicles over a certain length or height on speed-restricted roads. The plans have received a significant backlash, with more than 3,000 signatures on a petition to scrap the idea. Arbury Castle Town and Maloo member Tim Glover has since written to the Chief Minister with a number of concerns.
I've had people get in touch that do marshal at the TT Manx Grand Prix or 700 say if they are not going to be able to bring their camper van or motorhome over, which they would do normally, and be able to park it where they would normally do with friends, they won't be coming over. As simple as that. So there is a lot of high feeling. I think the context, of course, is that this is infrastructure trying to work with local authorities to identify what issues in, and there's the opt-out clause in there. But whatever the way it's been communicated, put out there, it really has set a few hairs running, and I think there's a call for some clarification and a rethink, really, as to where they're going with this. Well, I think we all know that there's the odd problem vehicle out there, and maybe have been left for a very long time, or indeed abandoned in some cases. So rather than apply the sledgehammer, why not try and deal with the issues that you have ready to hand? I think there has to be some common sense applied here. There is a lack, particularly in areas of my constituency, of any off-road parking. The other area vital to the Manx economy, and that's the sole traders. That's the problem. We tend to bring in these enforcement measures, and there's no consideration really given to exactly how they're going to be policed. So I don't have an answer to that question.
Manx Radio Sport.
Faster my Rob Pritchard.
Faster my, good evening. In cycling, 5 Manx competitors have been taking part in the 2023 UCI Cycling World Championships today. The event is taking place in Glasgow and other regions of Scotland this year until the 13th of August. 2 women and 3 men from the Isle of Man have been taking part in the Grand Fondo road races this morning and this afternoon. There were strong performances from Simon Harding and Rob Sorby in the men's 45 to 49 class, as they finished 34th and 35th respectively, whilst in the men's 35 to 39 class, Dave Kane finished in 114th. Lucy Mann and Emma Atkinson also contested the women's races in the 19 to 24 and 45 to 49 sections respectively. Fellow Isle of Man competitors Lizzie Holden, Ben Swift and Max Walker will also be in action over the next 9 days. In cricket, it's been a blinding start for the Isle of Man women's T20 cricket team on the opening day of the Women's Continental Cup in Romania today. The Manx side got their tournament off to a blistering start this morning, beating Greece by 10 wickets with a score of 98 not out. During the contest, Lucy Barnett managed a half-century and finished on 56 not out, whilst teammate Kim Carney also put in a positive batting display on 22 not out. Into the afternoon, and the Isle of Man faced the hosts Romania and won in equally impressive fashion, beating them by 10 wickets. Having bowled out the hosts for 41, another unbeaten opening partnership from Barnett and Carney saw the island side sweep to the win. The Isle of Man will face Malta tomorrow. And in motorsport, a Manx motorcycle racer has donated part of his entry fee for the Southern 100 road races to aid a charitable cause on the island. Marcus Simpson says he was recently reimbursed his £400 entry cost to the event by the Southern 100 Club, which he has described as a brilliant gesture. He adds, following talks with his sponsors, he's chosen to donate half of that to the Rob Vine Fund, which provides medical training and equipment for motorsport events on the Isle of Man.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, just one delay. The 528 Loganair from Liverpool's on time. The 20 past 8 Loganair from London City's on time. But the 8:30 EasyJet from, you guessed it, London Gatwick is delayed just 10 minutes until 20 to 9. Fingers crossed. Outbound, 6 o'clock. EasyJet to Manchester's delayed. It'll depart now at 6:15. 6 o'clock, Loganair to Liverpool, the patient transfer plane's on time, and the 9 o'clock to London Gatwick delayed until 10 past 9. On the roads, 3-way signals on the main road at Kirkmichael for snagging work, and at Blackboards again 3-way signals for friction surfacing and line painting. In Port St Mary, 4 roads and Station Road got temporary closure with diversions for highway resurfacing. Bulgham's got lights too on the coast road for wall repairs. Temporary lights on the coast road at Glenmona for patching work, and Ballagorn Road's closed for drainage work in Baldrine. Garth Road near Foxdale closed between the Tosselby Road and Foxdale Road for bridge replacement work. In Jerby, the Ballymena Road's got phase closures for water main replacement, and in Peel, East Keys closed between the House of Manannan and the Road Bridge for work on the road and pavements. Temporary lights on Victoria Road, Douglas at the Falcon Cliff Terrace Junction for water main work. York Road's closed for resurfacing between Woodburn Road and Ballaquell Road, and Hillside Avenue is closed for adjacent office window replacement till June next year. Annika Road and Cushag Road in Farm Hill closed in phases for resurfacing. And next week, Monday to Friday, from 6:30 to 10:30 p.m, evening closures on the Mountain Road from Barrule Park, Ramsey to Craignabar for hedge and verge cutting.
H&HMotorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
The Isle of Man Astronomical Society has held a ceremony to officially rename its observatory. A plaque commemorating the Society's late founder James Martin was unveiled by his wife Shirley. Christian Jones was there.
In 1989, the Society's first meeting was held, which would turn an acorn of an idea into a physical stargazing observatory.
So that was the observatory plan that built in 1997, and eventually in 2001 it was built and done, and that's the observatory as it's been since 2001.
James held a number of positions within the Society, ranging from the Secretary to the Chairman, and most recently the Society's President.
One other person who I would need to mention at this point is that of Colin Hill, because Colin Hill was the man who actually saw us in the Hill Street, the Auckland Club in Hill Street all those years ago, and literally offered to build us these premises, and we're so indebted to Colin.
His wife Shirley unveiled a plaque which would commemorate his legacy as one of the founders that members had so much time and respect for the efforts he'd put into making the idea materialise.
On a clear night, James was in the garden stargazing, and I heard James yelp. I raced out to see what had happened. It seems that he'd been concentrating so hard that he hadn't seen the cat on the wall. The cat jumped onto his shoulders and started purring in his head. And he got such a fright he shouted. Oh dear.
Society member and astronomer Howard Parkin described the decision to rename the observatory as a fitting tribute, given James's involvement with the Society from day one.
More so probably in the observatory itself. It was James who got in touch with Henry Soper when we bought the land to build the observatory on. It was James who did all the planning applications and everything else. And it was James that liaised with Colin Hill, who actually gave us a considerable amount of the funding for the observatory. James had done so much for us, and it was his passion. He loved his astronomy, and we were so pleased that he could do so much for us, and we were so sorry when we lost him. So it was a natural succession to name the observatory after him. Up until then it had been known as the Isle of Man Astronomical Society Observatory. It's now forever going to be known as the James Martin Observatory.
That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader William King, producer Rhiann Evans. Stick around. Friday Sport with Rob Pritchard on the way. The greatest hits with Chris Kinley. Sweet and Swing with Howie Kane. Rhiann's with The Late Show at 10. I'll be back Monday at 5:30.
WINT